Okay, so today we're going to go real briefly over taxonomy. This is something you learned in biology class. You probably learned it before you got to high school, but it may have been a little while since you've gone over it, so we're going to go real quickly. Tax means to arrange or put in order. It's one of the prefixes we'll be talking about throughout the year. So taxonomy is basically the study of putting things in order. So, the science of classifying organisms into groups. Before we go on, this is very different from other words you've heard of that have the same root. Taxidermy means putting skins into order. So taxidermy is taking an animal and a dead animal and treating the skins in such a way that it's preserved and you can mount a deer head on your wall or whatever. Also, when you pay taxes, you have to put people into order to figure out how much money they owe, and so that's how the word works with that. Okay, so the person you have to thank for the system we use was named Carolus Linnaeus. And if you think he looks like Benjamin Franklin or one of the other founding fathers, look at the date when he died. This was the fashion at the time. We do strange things for fashion, and at about in that time period, what wealthy aristocratic people did to look fashionable is wear a powdered wig. And so that's why all the founding fathers look like this. They wore wigs that made them gave them that appearance. So anyway, Carolus Linnaeus was a Swedish naturalist, physician, and botanist. He liked the Latin language so much he actually Latinized his name. His real name was Carl von Linnaea. He was an 18th century taxonomist, and he classified organisms by their structure, which was a little different from what a lot of people were doing. And he developed the naming system still used today. So he classified them by their structure. Other scientists classified them by how they moved, in which case fish and dolphins would all be in the same group. Bats and birds would be in the same group. But Carolus Linnaeus looked at their structure and realized a dolphin is much more similar to, say, a cow or a person than they are to a fish. A bat is much more like a mammal, a mouse, or a person again, than they are like a bird. So this is the naming system we use today. He wrote a book where he described this system called Systema Naturae. He is known as the father of taxonomy. He developed a modern system of naming known as binomial nomenclature, which bi means two, nom means name. So this is the two-name naming system, two-word name. And those two words are the genus and the species. I'll talk about that more here in a second. So who is the father of taxonomy? Okay, so organisms are put into successively smaller groups. We start with kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Now, in zoology, you're going to need to know this. You're going to need to know it very well. So you're going to have to memorize it. And there's lots of different ways to memorize it. I'll give you some of the ideas that I've used. Here's one called, and this is a mnemonic device, just a memory trick. Kings play cards on fat green stools. Okay, this is good because it's got a rhythm and it gives you a strange mental picture. If you can get a mental picture with what you're memorizing, it will help. Or you could also put King Philip came over for good soup, or whatever else you want to say he came over for that starts with S. You see how this works? Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So here's an example. Kingdom Animalia. This is what we're going to be studying this year. Kingdom Animalia, that's zoology. And you can see it includes all the bears, a fox, a squirrel, a snake, and a sea star. Phylum Chordata. And again, here's King Philip came over for gooseberry soup. This is another possibility. So, phylum Chordata. You have all of the same thing as you did last time, except the starfish, the sea star. It's in a different group. Class Mammalia. Class for the higher vertebrates is pretty easy because it sounds like what we say in real life. By class Mammalia, we lose the snake. So by class Mammalia, we have all the animals that have hair, fur, and they feed their babies milk and they're warm-blooded. Carnivora. This is not necessarily going by what they eat, but the shape of their teeth. Carnivoras have, the order Carnivora have canine teeth, so we don't have the squirrel anymore. Family Ursidae. This is a family of the bears. Genus Ursus, we lose our panda bear. Panda bears are in a different genus. And so then we have the black bear and the grizzly bear. And finally, species, Ursus arctos. There's only one in species. There may be several in a genus, but there's only one group that's in the species. Grizzly bears, black bears, panda bears, all of those are species. So here's an example with something familiar, the dog. Kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Mammalia, order Carnivora, family Canidae. So far just like the bears, isn't it? Except for the family. Family it changes, family Canidae, the canines. Genus Canis, species Familiaris. And strangely enough, people argue about the classification of dogs, even though they're one of our most familiar animals. Some people say that they should not have their own species and they're actually just a domesticated wolf. And so they would have the same species name as the wolf, which would be lupus. Canis lupus is the wolf. It's interesting to think that everything from Chihuahuas to Great Danes to poodles are all descended from wolves. Okay, so what's the smallest taxonomic classification? Okay, so here talking about the dog, Animalia are all the animals. Chordata, all animals with a notochord, and we'll get into that later. It's basically what becomes a spinal cord, and so this is mostly the vertebrates, but there's a few others. Mammalia, warm-blooded animals with fur. That's us, we're mammals. Carnivora, carnivorous mammals, and again, pandas are in that group. Panda bears are in that group, so it's some of them are not carnivorous, but they all have those teeth. Canidae is the dog family, which includes dogs, foxes, dingoes, and jackals. Canis, just the dogs, coyotes, and wolves. And Familiaris, just the dog. Wolves, like I said, are Canis lupus. Coyotes are Canis latrans. Okay, so let's talk about for humans. Kingdom Animalia, again. Phylum Chordata. Class Mammalia. So far just like the dog, isn't it? Order Primata. So we are a primate. We're in the primate group, just like the apes and the monkeys. Family Hominidae. These are the great apes. So gorillas, chimpanzees, humans, orangutans, and bonobos. Genus Homo. We are the only member of this genus that's still alive today. Species Sapiens. So there are other species of Homo that went extinct or interbred with us. There's Homo neanderthalis, which are the Neanderthals, Homo erectus, there's lots of them. But we are the only ones left now. We're the only, all humanity is in the same species, Homo sapiens. So when we identify an organism, we list only the genus and the species name. And this is nitpicky, but this is the only way to do it correctly. The genus name is capitalized, the species name is not. Genus species names are always underlined or in italics. So Canis familiaris. You see the genus name is capitalized, the species name is lowercase, and it's in italics. If you're typing, you're usually going to do italics. It's hard to write in italics, so if you're handwriting, you can underline it. This is also correct. They can also be shortened sometimes. You write it down the first time, the second time you just put C. familiaris. E. coli is one that is so commonly shortened that most people don't even know what the E means. This is a bacteria you hear about. If you don't cook your hamburger all the way, you can get infected with E. coli. It can make you very sick. But strangely enough, you have your own version of E. coli in your intestines right now. It's found in the intestines of almost all animals. It's actually Escherichia coli, which you can see why we shorten it to E. coli. So here's some examples. The blue crab, which is the crab you typically eat. It's found on the Atlantic and the Gulf Coast. Calanectes sapidus. It means beautiful swimmer for Calanectes, and the crab probably likes that, but sapidus means it tastes good. I didn't put that on here. So this is a beautiful swimmer that's good to eat. Melinda quinquis perforata, the sand dollar. Quinquis perforata means 5 holes. Octopus vulgaris is the common octopus. You'll see vulgaris a lot of times in scientific names, and we tend to think this is an example of how words change. Vulgar now means it's obscene, bad words, pornography, things like that. But when these names came up, vulgaris just meant common. So Octopus vulgaris is the common octopus. Canis familiaris, the familiar dog. Felis domesticus, the domestic cat. And before we go on any longer, why did they do this? Why did they come up with these weird names? And it's because when taxonomy was first developed, everybody that was educated spoke Latin and Greek, probably. So these scientific names use Latin root. They're Latinized. They use Latin and Greek roots. And to us, we have to memorize what Calanectes and sapidus means. But the people that named these, they would have known. If you would see this immediately and you wouldn't have to memorize beautiful swimmer, they would have known what that meant. So it was much easier when they came up with this. But nowadays, most people don't learn Latin and Greek. So it's a lot different for us. So which one of these is correct? Okay, I keep meaning to change this and I haven't. There's only one correct answer, and it's this one. You can see here, they're both capitalized. It's not underlined, it's not in italics. Here, the capitalization is correct, but it's not underlined or in italics. This one's the same way. This one, capitalization is correct, capitalized, lowercase, and it's in italics. Okay, so one good thing about scientific names is they are the same no matter what language you're speaking. So here's a picture. In all of these languages, and I don't even know what some of them are, this is German, English, Spanish probably. They have all these different words, and if they don't speak English, they won't know they won't know what they're talking about. But no matter what language they speak, it's universal that the scientific name is Mephitis mephitis. They all would know Mephitis. If they were someone studying skunks, Mephitis mephitis is what they would use no matter what language they were speaking. Okay? And we'll stop there for today. Have a good day and stay safe.